Hi viewers, I've got quite a few mirrorless cameras here, and I thought it would be useful to do a roundup of the sizes of each, since one of the arguments for mirrorless cameras is their smaller size compared to DSLRs. So I have here actually two interchangeable lens cameras. One is the Sony A7 Mark II, the other one's the OMD EM5. This one's probably the oldest one of the bunch. I also have two fixed lens mirrorless cameras. One is the Sony A7R, the first generation, and also the Leica Q. So I'm just going to hold them side by side, and so you can get a feeling of how big they are relative to each other. So the first comparison would be between the RX1R and the Leica Q. Now I'm going to do a comparison video of these two in detail, but this is just for the size. So as you can see here, one of them is a 35 f2, and the other one's a 28 f1.7. So they're relatively similar. They're both full frame, and they're very different in size. If this camera can just focus on them, there we go. So as you can see, the RX1 is much smaller than the Leica Q from all dimensions. So you can see that the Leica Q is on the left and the RX1's on the right. It's much thicker, it's much bigger, and I would say even the Leica Q is almost in the territory of a small crop frame APS-C sensor. So here we go. That's the size comparison between these two. And the next one, actually while we have the RX1R, is to compare versus the OMD. Now, the OMD is interesting in that it has a sensor that's 1/4 the size of the RX1. So this one's a full frame, this one is a micro four thirds. But if you can look at the size, they're actually very similar. Now I have on here a fisheye frame or a fisheye lens, and it's about the same size. But this one actually weighs a good 120 grams heavier than the 500 gram RX1R. So it's quite amazing what Sony managed to cram into the size for this camera. Alright, and the next comparison is between the A7 Mark II and the Leica Q. And here it's more on par. So the sizes are actually very similar in terms of the height of the two cameras. And of course the A7 Mark II has this beefy grip here, which is much easier to hold than the flat and somewhat slippery grip of the Leica Q. So here you go for the side. And right now I have a Voigtlander 15mm 4.5 on the A7 Mark II, and you can see that overall the sizes are pretty similar. Now this one is a lot heavier because of this lens and also of the image stabilization inside, and this one's I think about 300 grams heavier almost than the Leica Q. And here it is from the back. Again, pretty similar in terms of the height and the width, and from the side. So there's a lot of discussion online about whether mirrorless cameras are really that much are advantageous in terms of their size compared to DSLRs. At the end of the day, if you're using a fixed lens camera like the RX1 or the Leica Q, then the answer is probably yes, because it cannot get smaller than this, especially the RX1. But if you're using the bigger full frame cameras like the A7's series, then it's going to be about a wash in terms of the size and weight difference, because full frame will need full frame lenses, and the lenses for A7 is not that small. So overall, choose for the technology and for the lens selection and for the features rather than the size, unless you're going for the fixed lens products like the RX1 and the Leica Q. And of course, there's always a micro four thirds, and there you do have a significant size and weight advantage because the sensor itself is a quarter, and thanks to physics, the lenses can be much smaller too. So there you go. Here's just a quick roundup of the different sizes of these cameras, and hopefully you found that useful. Thank you, and I'll see you next time.